welcome learners to the next lecture of reading comprehension. The highlights of the lecture is reading, its importance and application, intensive and extensive reading, techniques and methods of reading and processes of reading. What is reading? Reading is a number of interactive processes between the reader and the text, in which readers use their knowledge to build, to create and to construct meaning. It is the interaction that occurs between the reader and the text, whereby the reader constructs meaning based partly on the knowledge drawn from the text and partly from the existing knowledge that the reader has. This interactivity occurs simultaneously among the many component skills that results in comprehension. Reading is the process of looking at a series of written symbols and getting meaning from them. When we read, we use our eyes to receive written symbols, that is letters, punctuation marks and spaces, and we use our brain to convert them into words, sentences and paragraphs that communicate something to us. How to improve these reading skills? Reading is a receptive skill, though we receive information, but the complex process of reading also requires the skill of speaking, so that we can pronounce the words that we read. In this sense, reading is also a productive skill, in that we are both receiving information and transmitting it as well, even if it is only to ourselves. Reading can be either oral or silent. It is interesting that while reading, different levels of meaning should be obtained from the same material. It is said that anyone who has learned to read and can read many sentences whose meanings are completely unknown to him. We often infer from the facts which are not stated explicitly and try to read again to guess the meaning with the help of the context. That is a process known as word recognition. To avoid this and improve our reading skills, we should equip ourselves with the understanding of the morphology and the rules of word formation, that is how words are formed and used. This is a process called as comprehension, understanding both the understanding between the words and the formation of the sentences. Enhancing your vocabulary will help to increase the speed of reading, or we may call it as fluency. It is not necessary that every time you encounter a word and the meaning is same. To know the exact meaning, you will have to refer the dictionary. Sometimes a word would have a meaning when used in isolation and a different meaning altogether when used in a group of words. So let us see this reading, its importance and application. Speaking is natural, while reading and writing are not. Out of the 4 basic skills, reading is a very important skill for academic and professional progress. It is related to your everyday activities like reading advertisements, books, technical documents that one comes across every day, where one has to read and understand. So, when you read a text, you must comprehend the following, that is author's purpose, the central idea, the cause and effect if there is, and other one is compare and contrast of the ideas, then facts and opinions, then sequencing of the ideas, in the paragraphs, and from there in all the paragraphs you have to draw inferences, and also you must know how to summarize it. A good reading comprehension improves your reading speed, thus improves the effectiveness of your communication. Comprehending what we read is the most demanding aspect of our reading. So, when you read a text, you comprehend the following, what we have discussed. There are two primary forms of reading, that is intensive and extensive reading. So, intensive reading is used to teach or practice specific reading strategies or skills. The text is treated as an end in itself. If it is done for complete understanding of the text by focusing on various aspects, on the other hand, intensive reading involves several skills, namely predicting the content, understanding the gist, scanning, role of paragraphs and sequences of sentences. In extensive reading, on the other hand, involves reading of large quantities of materials directly and fluently. It is treated as a means to an end. So, it is done only for overall understanding. It is done at a very superficial level. It may include reading simply for pleasure or reading technical, scientific or professional materials. So, what are the techniques and methods of reading? So, reading without comprehension is just equal to hearing and not listening. Extensive reading of text is more academic and may involve two typical types of reading, that is scanning for key details or skimming for essential meaning. A relatively quick and efficient read either on own or after scanning or skimming will give a global or general meaning. Both act as a useful strategies for speed and swift reading. So, look at what is scanning. Scanning is a reading skill used to locate or specific information quickly. For example, dates, numbers, examples and definitions. Scanning is the technique you use when you are looking up for a name in a telephone directory or a word in a dictionary. You move your eye quickly over the pages to find particular words or phrases that are relevant to the task you are doing. The steps of scanning are: you must ask yourself, what are you looking for? Look for highlighted words, for example, words in italics or bolds in the essay or paragraphs. Look for definitions. Look for numbers, dates and statistics. Look for examples including diagrams. Do not stop the movement of your eye till you find the specific information. Have a thorough knowledge of the content of complex materials. Use a pointer to help you move swiftly through the text. Try to develop your own technique of understanding the text. Now, skimming is another form of reading. Skimming is reading rapidly in order to get a general overview of the material. It is one of the tools to read more in less time. Skimming refers to looking only for general or main ideas. You read what is important to your purpose. It allows you to look for details in addition to the main ideas. What you read is more important than what you leave out. So, what material you read and what material you leave out is what you decide based on your purpose of reading a material. So, while reading, ask yourself the following questions to help you decide whether or not to skim. So, first one, what are you reading? Factual or non-factual? Do I have to read a lot? Do I already know something about this? Or can any of the material be skipped? So, these are the questions you have to ask yourself while skimming. The third one is churning. In addition to skimming and scanning, there are other two types of reading skills such as churning and assimilation. So, churning and assimilation are, on the contrary, much slower and related to the process of stirring up in our minds the ideas, context or structure of the topic by grasping the contents of the text. Once scanning and skimming is done, one needs to churn the gist or the meaning of what one has read. This happens only after skimming or scanning is done. Churning helps one to find the primary or the secondary meaning of what one reads. The churning process is 1. The process of interpretation, 2. Reading between lines. So, find out the hidden meanings intended by the author, and inferring the lexical and contextual meaning, and lastly understand the coherence. The last one is assimilation. Assimilation refers to comprehending the text so that one is able to summarize the complete contents of the text. It includes the understanding of the structure of the text, punctuations, author's point of view, and is able to paraphrase long and complex sentences or ideas from the original text. So, sometimes we can predict the given passage and thus helps you to comprehend quickly even before reading the whole passage. One must remember that in order to predict, you should develop the skill of rapid reading, because a good reader is able to think ahead, hypothesize and predict. So, if the subject is known, one should easily spot the topic sentence, that is the main theme of in every paragraph or the idea in a paragraph, the headings, subheadings, the diagrams, illustrations and cohesive markers like pronouns, repetitions and transitions, and thus helps in the process of predictions. So, we have here 3 stages of the processes of reading. In stage 1, pre-reading or planning for reading. In stage 2, reading for reading or while reading, and stage 3, post-reading or reflection on what you read. In stage 1, pre-reading or planning for reading, it prepares the readers to read assignments by asking themselves to any queries or content of the material. Planning for reading helps readers to focus. A reader might ask few questions. 1. What do I want to get by reading this text? 2. What has this particular text been selected? Why has this particular text been selected? 3. What does the title of this text mean? 4th, can I learn anything from the graphics? 5th, what am I looking for in the text? And finally, will the text contain information that I need? So, once you prepare this pre-reading stage, then you finally go to the reading or reading process. After the first stage, the reader starts reading the text. This will depend on the nature of the text. Now, what you are reading? You are reading a newspaper article, you are reading a journal, or you are reading a storybook. There are no definite approach though, but the following points will help the students with good reading strategies. 1. Identify the topic point or the sentence or the writer's argument. That is the first important point, one must do it. See if you can find out any assumptions about the text. The writer might take inductive or deductive approach, and you can identify important or central ideas as you read the paragraphs. Look for connected ideas, whether the paragraphs are connected. Is there any consistency in the argument? Then evaluate the arguments and find if it conforms to the ideas or principles presented. And finally, assess whether conclusions are justified. So, once you do the reading, then go for the third stage, that is post reading or reflection on what you have read. that is to investigate into the author's opinion. Think about what you have read. The following points might help you to recall what you read. For example, did you find the answers to what you were looking for in the material? Are there any part or parts that you failed to recognize? Third, did you understand each section of the text? Fourth, were you able to find the connectors within the text and other materials you read? Fifth, was the conclusion satisfactory? Were you able to interpret the questions in the text? And finally, try to make notes on what you read for future references. So, learners, to attain a good reading skills, one must often read louder so that you can speak well when needed. A practice of loud reading can minimize stuttering, anxiety, stage fear and other psychological problems arising facing your audience or audiences. To attain a good reading skills, one must read often and louder so that you can speak well when needed. A practice of loud reading can minimize stuttering, anxiety, stage fear and other psychological problems arising facing audiences. A good reading practice can leverage you to be more confident and be a good orator. Wish you good luck. Thank you.